Hello. Thank you for joining my segment of Leading with Love COVID-19 mini-series, Maximizing the Heart of Our Communities. This is sponsored by the Global Institute for Coaches and Entrepreneurs Incorporated. You can find more information about this institute at globalcoachentrepreneur.org. My name is Chris Caldwell, and for the past 27 years, I have been both a high school and college educator. I also work as a mental health professional with kids and adolescents, and I am a certified life coach. Today, what I want to do is focus on managing children during, this period that we're going through now. Managing children can be difficult during these times. Kids are constantly at home. They're bored. They're, getting into things that they normally wouldn't get into. They're thinking of ways to be creative, but, that doesn't always lead to, the best choices. And that can stress parents out. So again, this is about managing children, but it's to help the parents. Because again, parents deal with a lot of stress when it comes to kids. Kids can be the source of a lot of stress, a lot of financial outlay, and so on. So I want to cover three things that I think would be effective in helping you manage your children during this crisis. And the first one is to be a self-regulator. So the first thing you want to do is regulate yourself. And self-regulating essentially means the ability to process and manage your own emotions and behavior in a healthy way. So you have to get yourself under control first before you can start to, teach your kids anything, before you can manage them. So that's number one. We need to be self-regulators of our own emotions and behaviors. And by doing that, we then can allow our children to develop a tolerance, or we can develop a tolerance for allowing our kids to figure things out and to make mistakes. When we don't have a tolerance, when we have a low tolerance, it affects the kids in a negative way. Now, don't confuse a low tolerance for foolishness. Now that, I completely understand a low tolerance for foolishness, but I mean figuring things out, because kids are just that, they're kids. They are learning as they go. You're their primary source of information. You're the model. So you have to ensure that what you're doing is in the best, the best services of the child. So again, we need to self-regulate. So kids need to know when they're going through a tough situation that they're going to be allowed to figure it out on their own. And that can be hard for parents who are not self-regulators. If you don't have your own, emotions under control, that can be very difficult. So again, we want to make sure that kids, when they go through tough times, that they're allowed to figure it out. If kids start getting the message that mom or dad's going to take care of it, then nothing is learned. So a lot of times those consequences that no, I don't want my baby going through this. They shouldn't suffer like that. Those can be healthy. Those consequences, the pain, the suffering, whatever it is, that sometimes is healthy because um, if we don't do anything, if we continue to let them do that, it creates problems when they're grown, and then there's no one to bail them out when the consequences are really going to adversely affect them. But as a child, they're not necessarily adversely affected, so we've got to allow them to make mistakes. We've got to allow them to explore, to breathe, and so on. So you need to develop a tolerance for that, and that will cut down on a lot of your own stress. All right. Another technique or area I want to address, it's not a technique, it's an area of concern, is controlling your own anxiety. We have several series on how to control anxiety, and there's a lot of information out there about anxiety in general. And during this time, a lot of people are dealing with a high degree of anxiety. So when you're managing kids and you're experiencing anxiety, or let's just say you're someone who has anxiety, you've been diagnosed with it. One of the things you want to do is you want to be able to explain your anxiety. You don't want your child witnessing every anxious moment that you have, because they're constantly watching you. They're constantly processing what they see. I told you guys earlier that I am also a teacher for 27 years. Well, I when I go to work, I see kids doing all kinds of things. They overreact, they underreact, whatever it is. And when I meet their parents, it's like, oh, now I see. Because however that parent dealt with adverse situations is how that child does it. They're a sponge. They soak up everything. If you can't handle your anxiety, if you're just like, oh God, I can't take it, then chances are that's, your child is going to soak that up, and that's exactly what they're going to do. So you have to control your anxiety around your kids. And in turn, that helps you maintain control of your own anxiety. Because down the road, that child is going to be doing the same thing you're doing, which is going to be costing you a problem at that time. So it's better to handle these things early on. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. You've heard that before. So it is the same thing when it comes to managing children. Just a little bit of extra time here. A little, oh, okay, I'm not going to blow up. He just broke my mother's plate that's been in the family, for 100 years. Okay, I'm going to calm down and deal with this kid. That handling it that way is worth a pound of cure. So again, control your own anxiety around your kids. The next one is managing your stress. You have to start modeling stress tolerance for your kids. And again, this helps you and it helps your children. So, instead of just, look, I'm stressed, just get away from me. Y'all leave me alone. I'm sick of you. Just get out, or whatever, however you handle it. A lot of times, when there's a problem, it's like, hey, look, I understand that you're afraid. But what is there to be afraid of? What's actually going on? What's really happening? Those are the kinds of things you say instead of, well, you're afraid. I don't give a shit. Get on back there. Just get away from me. That is not the best way to handle it. So again, managing your own stress helps the entire household, actually, not just, it helps with your spouse, it helps with your kids. And that's going to, because when you don't manage your own stress, that creates stress within your children. Because again, when I'm around somebody who's stressed out, it stresses me out. So you can imagine if you're a big stress ball, what can happen to your kids. They're always stressed, and hell, half the time they don't know why. But it's because mom or dad is always stressed. So try to maintain a calm and neutral demeanor in front of your child. And, watch your facial expressions, watch your words, and choose very carefully the intensity that you express your emotions. You have to be very careful with that. You don't want kids to get into the habit of being, every reaction to something that happens is an explosion. That's just, that number one, that makes them want to leave. It keeps them on edge. It keeps them stressed out. It's just going to be kind of a cycle repeated. They're going to be stressed. Their kids are going to be stressed, and because that's the way they've been taught to handle it. That was the model. So, just remember that your kids are little sponges that can pick up everything. They do. I mean, you just think about your childhood and some of the stuff that you saw and heard, and you're now doing yourself. So just keep that in mind. And that is going to end my segment on managing children. In future segments, I may share with you guys some activities that you can do around the house to help relieve stress, to help create structure, and just in general keep your kids from getting bored. So in closing, I would like to thank the Global Institute for Coaches and Entrepreneurs for building this platform from the heart. And for more information, you can go to www.globalcoachentrepreneur.org. And again, I'm Chris Caldwell. Thank you for joining us.